Last fall, I was 27 and working as a high school teacher in Portland. If you've ever taught, you know how draining the end of a semester can be. I was completely burned out and desperately needed to be truly alone to recharge. I've been camping my whole life, so heading into the wilderness solo isn't as crazy as it sounds for me. I needed that reset. I took my truck out to a remote part of the Cascade Range, found this overgrown trail off a long Forest Service road that wasn't even on my GPS. It felt perfect. I packed my essentials: food, water purifier, and my 12-gauge shotgun. When you go that deep into the Oregon wilderness, a certain guardian instinct just takes over. I found a perfect clearing near some Douglas firs, totally isolated. No tire tracks, no other campers. It was exactly what I wanted. While setting up my camp, I found something weird. About 20 feet away, there were 4 stones stacked on top of each other like a little sculpture. It was strange because the area was untouched, no trash, no old fire rings. Just this deliberate stack of rocks. I shrugged it off and went about my day. That night, I was out cold by 10 p.m., which is unusual for me. I'm normally a super light sleeper in the woods, but this felt different, like I'd taken a sleeping pill. I woke up suddenly in the pitch black to a sound that made my blood run cold. It was a low, rumbling noise, like rocks grinding together. I froze, listening intently, and that's when things went from a 5 to a 10. I quietly unzipped my tent and peeked outside. My boots, which I had left right by the entrance, were gone. I grabbed my flashlight and scanned the clearing. There they were, about 30 feet away, sitting perfectly in the middle of a circle of bare human footprints. Then my light hit the edge of the tree line, and my heart stopped. 3 figures were standing there, just standing. Not moving, not hiding. It was like they wanted me to see them. One of them was holding my bear canister. The moment my light landed on him, he dropped it, and all 3 of them scattered into the woods in different directions. My hand immediately went to my shotgun. I shouted that I was armed and for them to stay back. The forest fell completely silent. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. At first light, I discovered something new and terrifying. Nailed to the tree directly above my tent was a small notebook. I opened it, and it was filled with pages and pages of tally marks, all in groups of 7. The very last page had a fresh set of marks, and the notebook looked like it had been weathering there for months. That was my final straw. I packed up my gear in what felt like 5 minutes. I was just throwing everything into the truck. As I was backing down that narrow trail, I saw the most disgusting thing: a dead squirrel hanging from a low branch by a piece of fishing line. It was clearly a message. I didn't even stop. Once I got back into cell service, I thought about calling the police, but what would I even say? That some people moved my boots and hung a dead squirrel? I still get a sick feeling thinking about it. I can't shake the feeling that they weren't just trying to scare me. Part of me is afraid that if I dwell on it too much, it'll stop feeling like a fever dream and become something much more real. I haven't been back to the Cascades since. Some places, I've learned, are meant to stay alone. This happened about 2 years ago, back in the fall of 2024. I was 26 at the time, working as a junior project manager for a construction firm in Sacramento. Burned out, worn down. I needed to get off the grid. I've always been a hiker. I know my way around the wilderness better than most. so I decided to head into a remote section of the Sierra National Forest. I didn't want a crowded campground. No picnic tables, no fire rings. I wanted to be alone. Alone. I found an unofficial spot on a backcountry forum. It was tucked back on a Forest Service road that seemed to go on forever. I packed my truck with the essentials: freeze-dried meals, a water purification kit, and my sidearm for protection. You don't go that deep into the woods without some kind of guardian instinct taking over. The drive was easy for the first 3 hours, but the last stretch was a headache. My GPS kept rerouting me. The trail was overgrown with branches and debris. Finally, I reached a clearing near a dried-up creek bed. No tire tracks, no signs of life. It was perfect. I spent the afternoon setting up my tent and gathering firewood. But as I was clearing brush, I noticed something that felt off immediately. Nailed to a pine tree about 30 feet from my sight was an old, rusted metal box, the kind people use for geocaching. Inside wasn't a logbook or a trinket. It was a notebook, pages and pages of tally marks, groups of 7, over and over, the last page completely filled, like someone had been counting the days for months. I tried to brush it off as a prank, but that night I woke up, randomly out of nowhere, and I knew I hadn't woken up to nothing. I froze in the dark, listened, and then things went from a 5 to a 10. Whispers, 2, maybe 3 voices. Right outside my tent, footsteps, circling, slow, careful, like an animal stalking prey. Then the zipper, tugging, scratching. Someone was trying to get in. My guardian instinct kicked in. I grabbed my weapon, yelled that I was armed, told them to back off. The scratching stopped, instantly. Then footsteps, multiple sets, running away, splitting off in different directions. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. As soon as the sun rose, I stepped outside, weapon in hand, ready to show I wasn't a target. I walked over to the tree where I'd found the notebook, and what I saw made me want to puke. Fresh tally marks, carved into the bark, a new group of 7, and hanging from a low branch by fishing line, a dead squirrel, positioned like a message, like a warning. My hands were shaking as I packed my gear, checking over my shoulder every few seconds. I made it back to my truck, backed out of that narrow trail as fast as I could. I didn't bother calling the police when I got service, because realistically, what would I even report? No one goes that far into the woods to investigate a message. I still think about that night, and I worry that if I think too much about it, it'll go from being a fever dream to something more real. I haven't been back to the Sierras since, and I don't think I ever will. Some people go into the woods to find themselves. I think I found something that was better left alone.